Hello, English students. This is Dr. Donnelly back with another fun video about revising. Um, this video is going to focus on revising to make sure that your language is precise. Um, we talked a little bit about using the active voice. That means to make it very clear who is doing an action, make that the subject of the sentence, and to make it very clear what the action is, to make that the verb of the sentence. This video is going to focus a little bit more on other things that you can do to make your language more precise. So I've pulled out a couple of paragraphs that you guys have written about short stories, specifically about how the structure of short stories tells us something about a character in a short story. And I'm going to go through and show you some of the places where I would make a revision in order to make the language more precise. So I've got two different paragraphs here. I'm just going to spend about 2 or 3 minutes on each paragraph, explain to you my thinking, and hopefully that'll get you started in revising for precise sentences. So this paragraph is about the short story Apollo. The person is writing about how the story begins in the present and then goes back to the past, and how that reveals that he's the main character, Okenwa, is still regretful about something that happened in his past. So this person writes, the second part of the structure and how it reveals Okenwa wishes to go back and change his past is the story of how it all happened. Now, this sentence could be more precise because one of the things I notice is that the subject of this sentence is super duper long, right? So I'm going to revise this sentence so that the subject is shorter, and say the second part of the structure is set in the past and reveals how Okenwa wishes to go back and change his past, because that really highlights the regret. Now, this sentence is a little bit more precise because it has a concrete subject, the second part of the structure, and it has a specific verb, is, set in the past, and it has actually two specific verbs, is set in the past and reveals. So that's a quick revision that I made to make the sentence a little bit more precise. The next sentence says, all meaning why Raphael meant so much to him and why he wanted to go back so bad and change his actions. This refers to that idea of how it all happened, but it's not super precise. So I'm going to make it a little bit more precise and say the narration in the past shows that Raphael meant so much to, and then just to be a little bit more precise, Okenwa. So the narration in the past shows that Raphael meant so much to Okenwa, and that Okenwa wants, right, because he wants in the present, to go back and change his action. Okay, I'm going to look at one more sentence from this. So here's another example of where I've made my subject more precise, the narration in the past, right, which is the second part of the structure. And then I've got an active verb, shows that Raphael meant so much to Okenwa. And I actually have two objects. So it shows that he meant so much to Okenwa, and it also shows that Okenwa wants to go back and change his actions. So I've just tweaked my language there to be a little bit more precise. Let's do one more sentence. Throughout the part of the story, you can tell Okenwa looks up to Raphael and almost wants to be him. I'm going to get rid of the you can tell because that's not very precise language. Instead, I'm going to figure out why this person thinks that Okenwa looks up to Raphael. And she goes on to say, you can tell this by the choice of words and thing the author says about the characters. So instead of saying throughout this part of the story, you can tell, I'm going to say the author shows that Okenwa looks up to Raphael and almost wants to be him through her word choice and descriptions. Because that's what this person goes in to talk about later. So that is essentially one of the ways that you can really focus on making your language more precise. We're going to hop down and look at one more paragraph that also could use a little bit more precision. This paragraph is about in the cemetery where Al Jolson's buried. And this person is talking about how the narrator is thinking about what's going on in the story. Essentially, she's thinking about her friend being very sick, being in hospital, and dying. So I'm going to do the same, bring the same treatment to these sentences that I brought to the previous sentences. So it starts towards the middle of the story. The author uses narration to show us the inner thoughts of the main character about the situation. Now, I can be a little bit more precise here, but just by, instead of saying about the situation, I can say about her friend's illness. This person then also goes on to say, it also shows more depth about how she feels about her dying friend. The word it is something I'm always on the lookout for when I want my language to be precise. So I need to figure out what that it refers to. Is it her friend's illness? Is it the main character? Is it the inner thoughts? Is it the narration? Is it the author? Is it the middle of the story? Right? So I want to be more precise here. I think what shows how she feels about her dying friend is the inner thoughts, the inner thinking. So I'm going to say the characters or the narrator's inner thoughts also show, now that I'm saying thoughts, I have to show more depth about how she feels about her dying friend. By using narration, it allows the reader to get a better understanding of what is going on and gives us background detail that helps put the story together. There's another it, and I could be much more precise here. By using narration, the author allows the reader to get a better understanding of what is going on. Instead of saying what is going on, I should tell what is going on, right? It seems like what is going on is that the main character, looking at what's happening here in the rest of the paragraph, what is going on seems to be that the narrator is afraid of death. That seems to be what she's talking about. Or maybe that both characters, she is right to be afraid, that both characters, the narrator and her friend, are afraid of death. So by using narration, the author allows the reader to get a better understanding of the character's fear of death. That's much more precise, the character's fear of death, than what is going on. What is going on we could talk about in terms of any story, but the character's fear of death is really specific to this story. I'm going to get rid of this because it's just not specific. Gives us background detail and helps put the story together. We could say that about any story. So essentially, when we're revising for precision, we want to be really clear about who is doing what. We want our subjects to be short and to the point. We want our verbs to be active. We want to be on the lookout for words like it and clarify what they mean. And we also want to be wary of phrases like what's going on and background information